On. Hello and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I am Julian Mush. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 10, The Phantom Apprentice. We've been looking forward to this one for a really long time because they've revealed the title to this one for a really long time. So we'll get into that in just a second, but before we do, I want to cover a couple things, including making sure to ask you, as always, to follow us on Twitter at TowerBabbleCast, Facebook.com/TowerBabbleCast, and all the streaming services of choice. So Twitter and Facebook, obviously, so Periscope, but then also YouTube and Twitch, all with very similar names. You can Google it and find it. And as well as help support the show at patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast as well. So before we get into all the news about this specific episode, there is some actual other Star Wars news that we can cover, and I feel like we probably should at least mention.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So there is a new female-led Disney Plus Star Wars show that Lucasfilm announced like a couple days ago. It's being, I guess, showrun by the same lady who did Russian Doll. Did you see Russian Doll on Netflix?
Maybe.
Is that time loopy one?
I don't think I. Oh, yes, I did. Okay. Yeah. Good one. I saw that one. I like that a lot. It had the girl from Orange is the New Black in it.
Yes.
Yeah. I really liked it.
Okay.
It took me a minute to recall it, but yes.
That's good because the same person. I'm like, oh crap, what's the name of the Leslie Headland, I believe, is the person who is going to be show running this new Star Wars thing. All we know about it is that it's going to be female led. Yeah, it doesn't tell us anything about what she might be doing other than that. Anyway, all it's saying is that it's going to be female led and that's going to be set in a different time period than any of the current projects being developed right now at Lucasfilm.
That's sweet.
So that's pretty cool. People are suggesting it might be an Ahsoka show, with what's her name coming in, taking over. Taking over is a little cruel.
What's her name?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do. The actress?
Yes.
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, and that's how
I can picture her face. See, now I'm an asshole too because I forgot.
No, I'm Googling it.
Is it Lauren
Rosario Dawson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Rosario Dawson is going to be taking over, and so people are saying, "Well, a couple episodes of The Mandalorian. That seems like not enough screen time for someone like Rosario Dawson, who is a legit like movie star." Well, I wouldn't go that far. She's been in movies for sure.
Okay, well then she's kind of a movie star if she's been in movies.
Yes.
More of a movie star than I am.
And me. Both of us combined.
Definitely.
All I'm saying is that I guess she's not like at the Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, like she's not A-list,
stardom.
but like yeah.
And I don't know why that matters. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying
it really
is that
doesn't.
she's still quite popular for somebody who's only going to be in The Mandalorian for probably a couple episodes unless the whole season revolves around her, which they seem to like to do when Ahsoka gets involved. She really seems to steal the spotlight. So
as she should.
Well, what if it's someone else's story?
I don't care.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
No, I care, but I don't mind if she's in there pretty deep. So.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like, okay, fair enough. Let's do a full show. Let's give her a full show. Maybe it's going to be her going off to find Ezra or something with Sabine. That would be fun, right? That's a different.
Oh yeah.
That's a different timeline, right? We haven't seen that yet. That's sometime. When is that supposed to be set? Sometime between episode, like I don't know when. Sometime between Return of the Jedi.
Like 15 years after Revenge of the Sith ends.
Right,
because Ezra is like 15 to 17 throughout that.
But what about
that arc?
But okay, so he disappears. But when we cut back to like when we get that fast forward, that cut forward at the end of Rebels of Ahsoka in the hood with the staff.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I don't know.
When is that set? I think that's sometime after the fall of the Empire, but I think before the new trilogy. So I still think that's a new kind of era that we haven't really explored too much of. So that's a possibility. I'm just saying, or maybe it's completely new characters.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Also, Mon Mothma. I think the same lady who plays Mon Mothma, who this time I'm not going to look up her name, but the same lady who's played Mon Mothma in Rogue One, as well as in the prequels, I believe. She's going to be Genevieve O'Reilly. That's her name. Is going to be coming back to reprise her role as Mon Mothma in the Cassian Andor show, which is, we now know, set 5 years before New Hope. So, or about 5 years before he dies.
Okay.
And then we also found out that Tony Gilroy is now going to be the showrunner. He's going to be replacing Stephen Schiff. So just another kind of creative person shuffle at Lucasfilm. They seem to like to do that. They're not very good at hiring people and keeping them on for their, until something's actually made. They have to fire at least one person from a show before they feel satisfied. So
for sure. Yeah.
So this is interesting. Tony Gilroy helped rewrite a lot of specifically Cassian's role in Rogue One. So he's kind of taking over the show, and that'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah.
And then there is also some more Ahsoka news, which was that apparently she was originally intended to have appeared in Attack of the Clones. So apparently there's a group of little Padawans, or not even Padawans, younglings being trained by Yoda in Attack of the Clones. And then one of them, where they're like, well, we'll make one of those Ahsoka, but they didn't line up in the age range properly. This just came out in an interview recently with Dave Filoni. So they decided to they scrapped that idea and then just created a new character instead of trying to retcon it before. But that would have been cool.
That would have been, yeah, but I understand that you can't really. Yeah.
Otherwise, Ahsoka would have been 10.
Yeah, and
that's even more problematic than it already is when she's 14.
Yes. Yes.
And 10 maybe even is generous. She might have even been 8 or something if.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That's all the news. Any thoughts on Star Wars news?
Yeah, no, I have no negative thoughts. So it's all, I'm excited to see everything that's starting to come out.
That's good. I'm sure your psychiatrist would be very happy to hear that you have no negative thoughts.
No negative thoughts, yeah. I saw one thing, because, it's the internet, but I follow a lot of different Star Wars accounts on Instagram and other places, and whoever runs the account was like, oh, what do you think about the news about a new female run series and blah blah, and I was just like, oh god, don't even open that up to I looked at the comments for 2 seconds and I was just like, nope. I noped right out of there. I was like, okay guys, let's calm down a little bit.
That's the right move. That is the absolute right move.
Yeah. It's like, yikes, but for the most part though, most people were positive about it, I think. So
yeah, I think so. There's just not enough news to be able to say, oh well, one thing or not. We don't know anything about it. So,
once we know a little bit more, then it's
Then anything is game. Then you can make fun of as many people as you want. I think that's how that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's get into this episode. I have this time, for those who've been keeping track, I have 5 loose leaf pages today.
Whoa, how many did you have last week?
It was 4.
Okay, and we talked for over an hour last week. So...
Yes, but I don't know. Maybe I don't think the number of pages necessarily represents the number of minutes that we'll be recording, but there was lots to cover last week, and I think now that we've kind of got out of this first episode of this first arc, that we can kind of there's less background we have to fill in, but we'll see. No promises. There could be an over an hour show again. So this is where
I have 2 pages of notes. So
together it's 7. So
I'm sure it's the same notes.
It's an hour and a half. We'll be going for sure then.
Yeah.
So let's, I guess, quick just overall thoughts, and we'll kind of dive into the everything as we go. What did you think of this episode? Better or worse than last week's episode?
It was better. And it's hard to beat last week's episode, but this had so much more stuff to it. It was amazing. It was probably one of my favorite episodes of anything I've seen in a long time, Star Wars.
Yeah, it's
related. So
I don't know. I think I liked last week's episode more.
I don't see this one just visually. I was just like, there's way too many. There's more times that I was like, that is the best this show has ever looked.
Well, yes, it's true. It does look really, really, really good. Especially obviously, and we'll talk about the specific things. I think we're thinking about the same things. The specifics of why and of what exactly looks so good about it. But so there's definitely parts of it that I appreciate more. So there's lightsaber stuff in
Hmm.
this. There's like a legit duel. There's two technically, three almost.
Yeah.
Um, and so you have to count that. That gives it points. But I think there was just something with spending more time with the clones last week that really kind of did it for me. It's called the Clone Wars for a reason.
Okay.
And
Yeah, fair.
this is just like pure Maul episode, and it's just great. And I like that. I don't, for whatever reason, last week's episode really resonated with me. Maybe because
Okay.
it's kind of like kicking things off, and it's got a lot more, I guess, momentum. This episode feels very like it's moved the story along, but it's really revealed a lot of things that we already knew. You know, so it's
Hmm.
what it's doing is having the characters catch up to where we are, or at least
True.
some of them, which isn't
I
always
just thought it
as
was cool how
satisfying.
much. Yeah, I just liked them showing how much Maul knows about everything. So I
Right.
thought that was really cool.
hmm
But
I was actually thinking that as well when I was watching. I was like, this is Maul's the only character of this entire series who actually knows what's going on, and it's like
oh, exactly. Yeah.
that's refreshing when you're like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, so finally someone kind of understands what's happening. What a nice twist. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. It just feels like this episode for me is like a lot of setup for that one encounter, where last week's episode, like, a lot's happening. It really feels like it ties like directly into Revenge of the Sith. So there's, for some reason, I can, it's hard to describe because they're both really, really good. I liked the way that the last week's episode was kind of set up a little bit more than this one.
Okay.
So let's get into it. So it starts with the green
Hmm.
Lucasfilm limited title card again. That's great. I was surprised that they did that. I wasn't sure if they were going to go like right into the episode, which they kind of did because there's no
They did.
prelude.
There's no break. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
There is the red Clone Wars logo. It kind of just drifts, and then there's a boom, which is a very Star Warsy sound. Um, for whatever reason, I don't, it's like a big
Yeah.
horn going boom. And then it's this revealed that it's this part two, which,
Hmm.
I think we already knew that this is a 4-part like arc. But when you kind of phrase it like that, it really kind of solidifies it as this is really 4 parts of one full story. And then
Yeah.
if you weren't convinced, it picks up literally the second the last episode ended. So like without even, there's no break in between at all.
Yeah. I like
So I
that a
like
lot.
that.
Yeah, me too. It felt like it really feels like these last few episodes are really more of like almost their own little movie, but
hmm
that they've just kind of like put little, a week-long break in between, right?
Right.
So I really liked that they're not like taking anything out, you're not missing anything. It's literally just gonna keep flowing like in one continuous loop almost. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I've decided I'm going to think about it now. Is
Hmm.
as a movie. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
you know, um,
Ditto.
it just feels right.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that brief intro, we have Maul versus Ahsoka round 1. I guess it's not really round, but I'll just count just for the sake of
Yeah.
understanding. It feels
Yeah.
like this is round 1 of a
'Cause he
three-part.
basically just circles her.
Yeah,
But
without even his lightsaber out.
yeah.
And she's just kind of standing there with her lightsabers, armed.
Oh yeah, 'cause she doesn't know what's gonna happen yet. Like
Yeah. So this is
she's
really
just
great. So much happens here. Uh,
yeah.
Maul has never met Ahsoka. They've never met before. Maul and Ahsoka have never met before. So I think that's important to note because
Hmm.
there's a little bit of a power move here. He's like, is Ahsoka Tano? Is it? Like questioning.
Yeah.
Like he knows her name. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like I've never really heard your name very often. Like you're not very important, basically.
Yeah.
Is what he's saying.
So what does he say? Can't remember how he phrased it. It's like your name isn't one that like comes to me
Right.
easily or something like that. Like because he's like doesn't really know who she is.
And then she's
Because
like,
he's obviously still
"What?
yeah, I was gonna
Go
say
ahead."
he's still butthurt that it's not Kenobi, so
Yes, for right now, he's butthurt that it's not Kenobi. But then we realize it's not
yeah.
even Kenobi that he was after, which is
No.
really interesting. So
Hmm.
she's like, she knows him. He doesn't really know her that well, but he says that they have several mutual friends.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I wouldn't put it that way. He's like, and then there's so many really great one-liners from Maul that I have to repeat most of them. I'm going to repeat most of
I
them in
know.
this episode. So one of them is,
They're
your way of thinking is behind the times, which is
yeah.
so funny. Like I feel like that is like him. That's like the closest we'll get to Maul, like just like throwing out a joke, you know.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
I really like that. So
Yeah.
while he's speaking, Ahsoka activates a beacon, on her arm. Quickly cut to Rex. She's like, "Oh, it's her. We'll trace the signal." And then they're off running. So okay, so we know she's gonna get some backup.
Yeah.
Steals a little bit of suspense from the scene, although there's not much anyway because we both know both characters survive. So which is another part of the reason this episode doesn't entirely land for me in the same way that last week's does, is because we ostensibly know the outcome to all these things, which does kind of sap the whole thing of suspense. It takes all of suspense away ultimately, but we're interested in how it happens, which I'm totally fine with. For whatever reason, if we're going to be telling prequel stories, standoffs don't really work as well, in my opinion.
True.
When we know that both people survive.
Yeah.
Anything else about this scene that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I like that he's kind of like he's talking to her, but he's not at the same time. It's like he's kind of talking to her, but he's more talking to himself. And it's kind of in that weird, crazy, like mall way where he's kind of a little bit insane.
Right.
Where it's like, even if he's talking to you, he's not really talking to you.
Right. Yeah. And like he's using her basically as like a sounding board, basically.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, Maul was convinced Kenobi would have come with Anakin. And that's the first time you're like, okay, it's interesting he brings up.
Right.
Because he's like, oh, with his loyal whatever, Skywalker, is it? And again, knowing he already knows what the name is. He's just kind of probing her to see how she'll react.
Right. Because, yeah, she basically tells him that they had more important shit to do.
Yeah, which is great. And then Maul does not like that.
No. No, not at all.
He also does, he kind of pauses there and is like, and then he says like, what was the right here? If the moment is upon us. And so we're like, every time he references like a moment or the time has come or whatever, we know what he's talking about. Ahsoka has no idea what he's talking about. Which is, I think is obviously like a very, it feels a little fan servicey because it feels more like he's talking to us than he's talking to her, which again, I don't love, but I just like knowing that he knows more stuff, which is fun.
Yeah.
And then he starts wondering, and he starts kind of musing about this, and he's like, wondering, why did Kenobi send you? Why not him? Why not Anakin? Why not anybody else? Why you? Right? And tells her that soon the Jedi and the Republic will no longer be the controlling interest in the galaxy. And then mentions that, so this comes up a couple times in this episode, which is Ahsoka assuming that Maul is power grabbing for the throne, like he wants everything, but I don't think that's the case, and I don't think
no.
I had a second guess. I had kind of second guessed it later on, when I'm thinking like, what's actually going to happen? Like, assuming everything went according to Maul's plan, would he have betrayed Ahsoka and then taken the throne or whatever himself, if that was something that he could do? But I don't even know if that's the case. I'm kind of more on the side of things that he really wants to stick it to Sidious because he doesn't like him. He thinks he's a jerk. And he kind of like ruined his life. And then B, just try to like live off the chaos or thrive in the chaos is what he says, I think, a couple times in this episode.
That too. And I also think he's more fighting for like his own like self-preservation, right?
Right.
Because he knows that like as long as Sidious is still around, he's never going to just like be allowed to run the crime syndicates that he wants. He's not really going to be free yet to do what he wants. Like he knows as long as Sidious is still here, he still has to be like under this worry and under his thumb of like fear because he'll be trying to kill him the whole time. So I think it's also just like he wants Sidious out of the way so he can, go run his crime syndicates.
Right, I guess. It still is like you described there. Like it's still self-motivated, right? Like it's still out for himself there. He does like talk about it in a larger scope, like the galaxy's not going to be the same. What you think you understand is not what's happening. I can help stop that, or I can prevent that. It's a very there's kind of some reflections or shadows of Kylo Ren and kind of kind of his whole deal with Rey. Yeah. And I find that really interesting, those parallels there. But essentially here he at this point in the scene, this first scene, he's doing a couple things. He's trying to he's kind of recalculating. So okay, so Kenobi and Anakin didn't come. Okay, now what?
Yeah, because he's basically got to refigure out what he's doing with this plan here
Right.
now.
Okay, so Ahsoka's here. Who is she? What's motivating her? Why does why does she care? Right? Okay. Figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then also at the same time put the pieces together of the Sidious plan that he knows. So he knows parts of the Sidious plan from when he was, Darth Maul, and he knows other things from just, being in the underworld and kind of having a sense for it. And then also he has visions that turns out are pretty prophetic.
Oh yeah.
He has some pretty prophetic visions, and not all visions are guaranteed. This is something we learned a lot in Star Wars, that it doesn't necessarily tell you what is going to happen. It tells you what could happen or what can happen. So this is really, I feel like like all the scenes with Maul are just dripping with subtext and context. This one is particularly good at it because he drops Sidious's name, right? Because I think he wants to know, does she know who he is? No, no, she doesn't. Okay, that's we can come back to that. She'll learn more, I know, later, so we'll come back to that. And then when they have their brief little encounter, when Rex, pops in and kind of like springs her loose, he has this scene where, like, they're fighting and he says not yet, and I didn't pick that up the first time I watched it, right? Because I'm still kind of stuck on the, he wanted Kenobi, but he says not yet because he has a plan. He has a different plan for her.
See, okay, I thought something different.
Okay, what do you think?
I thought he was talking about, because he's talking to himself a little before that, and he's saying like, he's basically talking about how kind of Order 66. But then when the clones rush in, he's like, "Oh, like it hasn't, as in like not yet, like as in it hasn't happened yet." Because if Order 66 has happened, they'd be trying to kill Ahsoka.
Right.
They
So
wouldn't be coming in trying to save her.
Right. So you're thinking he's trying to dial in on the exact moment that Order 66, or that when they spring the plan.
Because he's like, oh, like he's always wondering, he's like, has it happened yet? Maybe the time's upon us.
But
and then when the clones come in to rescue her, he's like, not yet.
Fair enough. No, there's no wrong.
I could be wrong.
There's no wrong.
That was just how I interpreted it. For sure. But
my take on it is that I think he says later in the episode that the dark side has never been stronger. He would feel that happening. Like, you would have a sense of,
true.
He might not know exactly when it's going to happen, but he would know if it had already happened, right?
Yeah, that's true. He should be able to feel that.
Right.
But
so that's just kind of how I took it. If someone else has a different interpretation, please let me know. Okay, so we then cut to Kenobi, Bo, and Ahsoka and Rex in the throne room, and they're having a kind of a conference call with Kenobi. So Bo is mentioning that there's still some firefights happening around the city, and the subtext is so great here because she mentions the clones are as effective as you said, right? And then she says this could all fall apart without Maul in custody, right? So it's a little bit of foreshadowing because they're going to get Maul in custody at the end of this episode, right? So okay, this is all going to fall apart, which ultimately for the Mandalorians would have been good, because this clone regiment, once they're on Mandalore, they don't leave. I think we can kind of we don't know that for sure, but I think we can infer that this is an occupation. And she says it later, where she's like, "The people won't stand for it. I won't stand for it," right? And it's kind of funny because she's like, because it's like, well, you asked for our help, so fuck you, first of all. But also, like, it just like showing them rounding people up, acting as police is very clone trooper-esque and very not military-esque. So I feel like that's like very, again, a lot of foreshadowing there. A little maybe too much on the nose. I don't know. It's hard to really tell with some of this stuff because we know what's coming. It's really easy to pick up on that stuff. So it may or may not be.
Doesn't Rex say at one point though that the clones don't like acting as like policing units?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
That we don't want to be acting as police. We're soldiers. Yada yada yada. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So Bo is just, again, she's in a relatively good mood here, but is hoping that they can get Maul in custody soon. Ahsoka mentions that it kind of comes out of nowhere, but she mentions that she learned from Maul that Sidious is what's motivating him.
Right.
Bo gives this very funny look, and she's like, who is this Sidious? And it's funny when people say it out loud, it sounds stupid, especially when it's from actors and actresses that aren't used to saying stuff like that. It's like, I'm like, ooh, that name is pretty stupid, but that's fine. And then Kenobi, so Kenobi looks troubled. He gives this like, and he strokes his beard, right, as he's known to do.
Pondering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he does this whole thing. He was like, well, I first learned about Sidious through Dooku, but any chance of learning more about Sidious is now lost. And then this might be the best line. Well, there's so many good line readings, but my one of my favorites for sure is when Ahsoka's like, what do you mean? And she's like, because Count Dooku is dead. The way he says it is so fucking cool. I don't care. Arnold Taylor has it down pat. It's this matter-of-fact way of telling the news, but also inferring a lot of like the way he feels about it, even though he's not supposed to really have a lot of emotion. Oh, it's so good. I've actually rewatched. There's someone put it into a GIF and like or a video that just cycled over. I just watched it a million times. It was amazing.
It is good. I love this. I love this because it's like the very small little drops so you know exactly where we are and exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of giving you those like feels of where we are in Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
And I also really like that Kenobi had his like little Jedi hood outfit on.
Yes.
That's the same. I just loved it. I was like, ooh, he's wearing his like, Revenge of the Sith outfit.
Right. Well, I mean, he kind of has a very, I guess, he has the whole cloak instead of just the.
Yeah, it's like, the cloak. Because it's like, he doesn't always, for the most part, throughout the Clone Wars, he doesn't really have that cloak on a lot. It's usually just his regular Jedi robe. So I liked that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this scene is happening like, it's obviously right after Anakin kills Dooku, but it's because then Obi-Wan goes to say that how he's being deployed to Utapau.
Yeah.
So it seems like it might be right after Anakin got told he's not a Jedi Master.
I think it's essentially that we will not grant you the rank of Master.
Yeah.
That line,
it's got to be like right after that meeting.
And essentially, and he's like basically, I wish I could send you back up. I can't. I'm being sent off to Utapau. So you could almost stop the movie there, pick up this show again, and then like and then can keep watching. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I don't know what will be the perfect way to kind of tell these stories, because we don't have a lot of stories that take place concurrently with one another in Star Wars.
I can't wait until someone cuts it all up and does that, because someone's going to do it out there.
Right, just do it for me, like cut it so that it all lines up perfectly. Like,
so I can just watch Revenge of the Sith with the Clone Wars like scenes like inserted as it goes.
I feel like it'd be kind of weird with the live action and the animation kind of cut back and forth, but I don't really care.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah. The weirder thing would be, the more jarring thing, the craziest part about it would be, it wouldn't be the animation that's the most jarring, it'd be the characterization of Anakin that would be the most jarring.
I was just gonna say, it would be like it would be my favorite Anakin versus my least favorite Anakin. But
and then Kenobi asks to speak with Ahsoka alone. He tells her about the mission that he's been sent on. Very political way of saying it, to keep an eye on him and then report back. So spy. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And she just knows. She's like, Anakin can't be happy about that. Like,
I find this really interesting because there's this between last week and this week. So she's like, last week she's like, it's not the people of Coruscant that need you, it's the Chancellor, right? And he's like, oh, that's not fair. And now they're saying, well, we don't necessarily trust the Chancellor. And he's saying, well, she's saying, and basically, and it's not clear if she's kind of speaking on the behalf of Anakin or kind of paraphrasing him, or she kind of has this opinion herself. But basically, she's saying he's only been a friend. Why wouldn't you trust him, right? I feel like it's a bit kind of back and forth. The only way I can kind of make it make sense is saying, well, she is paraphrasing Anakin, saying that he's been a friend and mentor to him, right?
I think so, yeah. And that, like, I mean, and as far as Ahsoka knows, that's what she thinks too, as much as she might not agree with how the Jedi run to him at every chance they need to. She probably still thinks but he's still on their side. But
I do like that there's the reveal here that Kenobi's like, well, we know who Sidious is. We think the Council thinks that Sidious has been playing the Clone Wars from both sides, right? Which is what we know to be true. And he eventually learns this later on, but to be true, but I just like that these little insights that he's sharing. It's very open of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And basically, so this is really interesting. I want to get your take on this. So Kenobi
Okay.
asks her, I want you to speak to him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? And she's like, well, you want me to defend the council's the decision of the council? Like you're coming to the wrong person, right?
Right.
And he's basically saying, like, listen, I get it. They're not always right. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm just trying, he's basically just pleading with her to kind of speak reason into him, because I don't think she feels like, or maybe he feels like he's kind of going down a path. You're going down a path I can't follow.
It's a terrible Padme.
It's okay. It's about as good as the Padme from the Clone Wars. So I'm having a hard time reading this because I'm not really clear as to what Kenobi's asking of her.
I think because like Ahsoka and Anakin are so close,
Mm-hmm.
and because like Anakin really likes to sort of push back with Obi-Wan, right?
Right.
As much as they're brothers and whatever, I think there is still that push and pull. Whereas with Ahsoka, I think Kenobi thinks that Ahsoka can maybe like talk to Anakin from a different perspective when Anakin
Right.
knows that it's not coming from the council. Because when Kenobi talks to him, all Anakin's probably going to think is like, okay, that you're just talking like this
Right.
because the council want you to. Whereas Ahsoka is now more of like a neutral, third party that
Yeah.
has, insight into both sides of it. So I think maybe he's just, hoping she can kind of wrangle Anakin a little bit and bring him back to the light side a little
Right.
bit.
I
So to
guess
say.
like he lays out a pretty like fair, I think, reasoning behind why they're spying on him. They're like, listen, he's been in power way longer than he's supposed to. Like he's been allowed to stay past his term. It's not normal. We want to understand what's motivating him. Like why, right?
Right.
That's important. And yes, the order comes from the council, but I think, we know that there's somebody playing both sides. We don't know who it is. He either might know or know who that person is or be that person himself. We don't know that. We need to find out, right?
Right.
So if maybe she can come to, I'm kind of just speaking out loud. I'm just thinking out loud here, but maybe if she can kind of bring that kind of fair and reasoned opinion, which is that we need to understand more about what's going on with Palpatine, to Anakin, he might be more, open to having that, or performing that kind of spying, quote unquote, or kind of thinking more critically about his decisions or what's happening,
Especially because Ahsoka can probably level with him a little bit and knows Anakin quite well, so that she knows she can tell him like, I know that this is like a shitty thing that you have to do, but like, here's why.
Right. So this is probably the last time she speaks with Obi-Wan. It's likely.
Yeah, most likely.
Actually, maybe not, because there's maybe some scenes at the end of like him communicating with her.
Maybe
post turn. It's not
That's
clear.
true, because he has time to go talk to Padme like after shit goes down.
Exactly, and him and Yoda, and they have like a little powwow.
So he could easily send like a a hologram to her.
He does send out the hologram, warding off the Jedi.
Yeah, he sends out the
Here, okay, two things now. So Rex interrupts them, says, "There's been an attack," and so they go, "Okay, cool, we're gonna leave." And then she says, "Tell Anakin," and Obi-Wan says, "I know." What is she?
Yeah.
What is?
I don't know. See, I was gonna ask you that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know whether she means
Finn
like
thing from from the episode 9 all over again. What was she gonna tell? What was he gonna tell Rey? What does she want to tell Anakin here?
Yeah, but I think the episode 9 thing is a little more.
You think
easily?
So? You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that one's a little more easily deciphered than this one. I don't know. With this one, it's hard. Like, I don't know whether she wants to tell him like, be careful, be safe, like, or like, I'm sorry for leaving. Like, I'm not too sure whether it's just like, what do they always say to each other? Like,
good luck.
Force be with you and good luck, and maybe something like that.
That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't like.
Or did she mean like tell Anakin to call me? Like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Honestly, yeah, that's probably what it is. Hey, yeah, tell him to call me. I'll talk to him. Maybe.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I think maybe that's what it is. He's asking for her help, and she's saying, "Okay, I'll help."
Yeah.
Tell Anakin I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going with that interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we could come to something. Okay, so we then cut to Ahsoka and Rex. They're back in the lower city, ambushed on C deck. They go talk to a Captain Sterling, which is a cool name, and he tells her that Maul came and like cut through them all, but captured ARC Trooper Jesse, and we obviously know
Yes.
Jesse. He's like, I kind of like this whole thing because it's even though it's a little exposition-y, I don't know. I have a soft spot for the clones. He's like, I don't know. He like read our brain or something. He knew he was older. He took him. It's like it's a little like that's a little clunky, but for some reason I like it because like he is older, right? He's one of the firsts, so
he's one of the older clones there, and I really like this writing. I think that's a really cool like way to think of things from the writer's standpoint of like Maul taking Jesse because he's an older clone.
right.
I don't know. I just think it's so cool. Like I like this whole piece of this story.
Right.
I
You
think
like
it's really
this
neat.
the Jesse as a captive part. I don't know. It feels
Yeah.
very as like it's like a B story in this whole episode to me. It feels
Oh,
like.
for sure. It's not like super important in the grand scheme of things because, like, regardless, he basically takes Jesse so he can learn as much as he can about Ahsoka because he wants to know, like,
Right.
okay, like, again, why are you here? Like, he needs to know more about her to know
Mhm.
why she's there.
Right.
And I don't know. I think it's a really cool idea and very, I guess, smart from Maul's standpoint
Right.
to take Jesse
Who
because
would
he's an
know,
older
right?
clone.
Like who would know?
Yeah. So he's like,
Bo's
okay,
not
like,
gonna know. He's not gonna be a person he can get to.
yeah. He's
And
like, how can I get this information as fast as possible
Mhm.
and the most information?
That makes
So I don't
sense.
know. I think it's kind of cool.
I
And then
guess.
also, it's nice that he doesn't just fucking murder Jesse right
Yeah,
away.
that is
But
well, only for him to portray her later. That's fine.
yeah,
Um,
because he knows. Maul
yeah.
knows that too. He's like, ah, fuck it, doesn't matter. Like
You think that's why he gives him back?
maybe because he's just like one more. You know,
He's like, what does it matter? Like, he's
it
he'll either
doesn't matter
die
if he
now or die
killed
later.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like okay, like yeah, I feel like that's probably why he's like, well, you're just gonna help get some Jedi out
Yeah,
of
but
my way.
I guess, but I don't think Maul doesn't seem like he wants or he's rooting for Order 66 to happen.
I don't think he's rooting
he
for anybody though. I think he just like he doesn't give a shit what happens to the Jedi or the Republic. He
exactly.
just wants to go after Sidious. So it doesn't really matter to him
Right.
who died, like who dies as a result of Order 66. But
Exactly. So I'm saying like the only reason he'd care about it is if he had a way of like messing with Sidious somehow, which he doesn't really. So
because if he really, really cared and like, he could literally go to the Jedi Council, but like he doesn't care enough to do that. But
well, he doesn't think the Jedi. He says it in this episode. He doesn't. The Jedi Council can't. They can't do anything.
yeah, there's nothing they
it's
can
beyond
do.
their power
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, and he's probably. I mean, he is right. We know that ultimately he's right. But his perspective of they can't do it. Only we can do it because we are. We were cogs. We understand the machine that is being played here, and because we're not a part of it anymore, we can affect it. Whereas the people who are, he says, blissfully unaware. He's talking to like the clones and like the Mandalorians and stuff. They don't know. They can't affect it if they don't know. And the Jedi are too close. They can't affect it. It's lost already for them. So they have a rare opportunity of being able to not only have forethought and foresight into what might happen or might come, but also the ability, the skills and abilities and understanding to do something about it, which is I think pretty genius of him. But
oh, for sure, yeah.
Okay, so then there's a Maul scene here where he's interrogating Jesse, and Maul has this scene: clones, bred for combat, part of the plan. Right, and then Jesse's like, "What? What do you mean? What's the plan? What are you talking about?"
Oh, right, yeah, because he can see like now that he's got Jesse too, he can see like okay, like I'm assuming he can see the chip and all that shit in his brain because it's in his brain.
Yeah, and it's
even
still
though he's not aware of it.
We don't understand entirely. I don't think how much Maul might know the specifics of the plan. Does he know that the clones all have chips in their head? It's not clear. I don't think he knows that. Does he know about Order 66? He knows that something like that might happen.
He definitely knows about Order 66.
You think he knows specifics of the clones will turn on the Jedi? You think you know that?
Yeah, I think he knows that, and I think he knows. I think he like obviously. I don't know. I feel like after looking into Jesse's brain the way he did, I think he got a little bit more detail about it too.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he does say your mind will speak or it will break, right?
Yeah.
And it might have broken. Yeah. We actually don't know.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
Um, so he
No,
says,
but he learns everything he needs to learn about Ahsoka through there,
right,
and
he's doing more monologuing here, where he's basically saying, he's like the plan. He's like,
hmm
the plan that controls everything. I was cast aside. This is something that comes up later with Ahsoka,
yeah,
and like look at that where that got me. I knew what the plan was, and it doesn't help me. I'm still stuck down here with you. Um, Saxon is then sent. This is kind of like it seems a little weird because he's like having this conversation with Jesse. Then offhandedly, he's like, "Hey, by the way, go assassinate the prime minister." And he's like, "Okay, cool."
yeah. He's like, go get rid of him.
Yeah, and then Maul
Yeah.
interrogates Jesse, and I really like this because he's doing the mind thing, that the dark side mind thing, extraction
hmm
thing that we've seen Kylo Ren use and Snoke
Right.
use to like great effect, right? It feels very in line with everything we kind of understand about that. It just, and the way they always shoot it is just really like from that perspective above their head and like wide angle. I like it.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I noticed about this scene is Maul refers to Jesse, who wants to understand more about the usurper Tano, which I think is an interesting phraseology. And then also
Okay.
that the Mandalorian helmets light up when they put them on.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
Ah, I love those red Mandalorian helmets with like the
The
yellowy like
black and
glow
the,
behind
yeah.
them. They look
Hmm.
so cool.
They do.
Yeah, they might be, some of my favorite Mandalorian helmets out there.
It's no clone trooper armor, but whatever.
They're cooler. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They're so much
I
cooler.
don't think they are. It's fine. We'll just agree to disagree. Anything else about this? Like you kind of said it already, but anything else about this like interrogation of Jesse
Uh,
that sticks out to you?
no, not really. Yeah. No, not that we haven't already discussed. So,
Okay.
yeah, I just thought it was a really cool idea and a really smart idea. I just liked it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you did, obviously, but it's still fun. So we then cut to another interrogation. So I do like this, the way that they play it back and forth. This is Maul's version of an interrogation, right, where he
Yeah.
uses the Force to extract the information and knowledge that he needs. And then there's this interrogation of Prime Minister Almec
hmm
being carried out by Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and Rex. So he's saying that Maul isn't. This is Almec saying Maul is not trying to escape. He's actually very forthcoming with information, which is very.
Oh yeah, he
I guess
just
Maul
blurts
was
it all out immediately.
yeah. Maul's like, yeah. By the way, he's a bit of a loose lips, so we should go.
Yeah, he's a chatterbox. Go deal with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. So he's not really trying to escape. He wanted this to happen, right?
Yeah.
Um, Interesting. He says he's been consumed by a quote strange sense of dread lately. Right?
hmm
He feels the turn approaching. And then he says that and this is where it gets really interesting because he says he didn't just want Kenobi. There was somebody else, and then he gets shot in the
Right.
chest.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
um,
two, but not quite in the chest. Just kind of like lower shoulders.
yeah, it's like both. Yeah, it's both his shoulders for some reason are shot.
Yeah.
I like that they say call a medic, even that they always say that, but never it doesn't ever help.
No.
But I do feel like it gives Saxon a little bit of like credit because like he's looked cool and we've kind of see him be kind of cool, but like that's a pretty tough shot to make, through a door,
Yeah.
partially open door. So I like, he comes off a lot more intimidating and badass in this episode for sure.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he's shot, and then as he's dying, he's like, Skywalker.
Yeah.
Which I
And the
thought was
Imperial
dumb.
March plays in the background.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's no, because he doesn't just because Ahsoka's who's the other
Mm-hmm.
person? Like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm,
want to know
mm-hmm.
the name, so he with his dying breath says Skywalker. I loved this part.
It felt familiar to me for some reason. I don't know why. Like it feel like
Really?
it was calling back to something. I don't know what. I could be wrong. I thought just from a storytelling perspective, only because it's a lot of again like these characters catching up to the knowledge we already have as viewers, but not Ahsoka not knowing that Skywalker was what he said there, I feel like might actually make this more interesting because now she's like, who is this other person? And she can take that information to Maul and be like, who is this person? And then now she's getting it from him, and it feels more less of a reliable narrator, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So in the way it plays out now, she knows it's Skywalker. She wants to know why Skywalker, not who, I guess. Which
True,
is,
but
you know,
maybe that makes her want to like, I don't know, engage with Maul a little bit more, but to know why, because it piques her interest, being like, okay, like what do you want with Anakin? Like,
yeah. I guess
I don't
I
know.
feel like she'd want to know either way. I guess it doesn't
No, it's
really.
true.
Yeah, and then I guess now she's asking for more information, which is nice because otherwise it would have been a lot of, again, just her finding out that Anakin, which we already knew again.
Yeah.
Understanding his reasoning behind it was interesting. I will give them that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I kind of came around on that in the middle of my critique. Then there's an elevator fight, which is pretty cool. Bo-Katan's jetpack sparks like. So this is what doesn't make any sense. Because she's on the ground. Like, is she's like, how does the jetpack exactly help her use her arms to push up? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like, I'm not gonna question that. It's just the only thing that's cool about it is the cool fight scene, and then we get to see her jetpack spark like Jango Fett's did right before he died.
Right. Yes.
Okay. That takes us to the another scene here where Saxon returns after killing Maul. Rook he's like, what's going on? What did I miss?
Almec?
Sorry, after killing Almec. He seems to see Maul after killing Almec.
Right.
Tells the Rook tells her that Maul's telling the leaders of the syndicate to go into hiding. So we see the Pikes, and we see another group that we've seen before. I just don't recall who they are. And then we also see Crimson Dawn.
Because we see Dryden Voss, which I thought was really cool.
Yes, hard to tell exactly, but like I think it comes across just enough.
They do it just enough that like where his is the last hologram to like fade out too.
Right.
The other two guys kind of like go away, and then like they make a point of you like drawing your eyes to like so you know who that is.
Right, and it's fair. Like they didn't have to be like, and Dryden, make sure Mr. Voss, make sure you're the one who goes into hiding, and later when I ask you, make sure you talk to that girl from Game of Thrones.
Whatever.
But anyway, I remember seeing that clip came out like a couple days before.
Oh, okay.
It was revealed that it was Dryden, and people were like, it's just really impressive how the Clone Wars is able to provide so much more like story material or flush out so many things that outside of just the prequels movies. Like we got stuff for Solo here, right?
But it also like it made me more bummed because I'm like, fuck, are we ever gonna get that story?
No, the sequel to Solo, you mean?
Well, yeah, because like it just like they leave you with that cliffhanger of Maul, and I'm just like, fuck, I want that.
But we know what happens to Maul. So bad. We know what happens to him.
Yeah, but no.
There's a big gap, I guess, in between that moment and when he dies, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just find that the whole thing very interesting. That they can tie those things together so seamlessly, and it doesn't feel like that. See, this is one of those references that doesn't feel too on the nose. Like it fits, it makes sense. And I kind of like definitely appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, I really liked it.
So that takes us to page 4 of my 5-page notes. So Maul mentions to Saxon and Rook that they helped him escape from Sidious's prison. This is something you told us about last week.
Yes, son of Dathomir. Yeah.
So that's cool that we get like a more direct, specific reference to that. I just find I find that whatever is going on with the reading of Sidious by Maul is just it's like he says it a different way. I feel like every single time he says it, it's really weird to me. I don't know, especially this one time.
I didn't notice that.
Sounds weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
It literally means nothing. So he also, again, he does a lot of musing and like monologuing in this episode. So
that's what I mean. He talks to himself. Like,
yeah, and he's doing it again.
Crazy.
And he muses about how he thought, and this is so weird because these people around him are like, "What the fuck is he talking about? Who's Dooku?"
Yeah.
Their music, he thought Dooku was like an old fool, but now he understands that they have the same role, which I think is such a like we've always known that, but I think having a character have the ability to kind of step outside himself and understand that is really interesting. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're always one step behind Sidious.
Oh yeah, like always.
And then he also, and then again, another great line here: the dark side has never been stronger. And then Rook is like, "But
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean?" Because we're all thinking the same. Well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
um, and then he basically says, "Soon the galaxy will be remade. We must seize as much power as we can during that transition. Right? There'll be a power
Yeah.
vacuum. We can step in, and we know he does. Right?
Yes.
And then this, oh, I love this. This is another really great kind of little line. It is, quote, not the way of your people to hide within the gutters, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
then we, cut to the Mandalorian, and what do they say about hiding in the gutters? They say, it is the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's a direct reference, but I feel like it is. Like that phraseology is very specific, right?
I think it is too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it. Yeah.
Like
I think
what
you're totally right with
happens?
that.
Like what happens to the Mandalorians that they go from like this proud warrior culture to this.
Oh, they just get demolished. Like I think it just has to do with obviously like when everything all the shit goes down, right?
Mm-hmm,
You have the Mandalorians, like the Bo-Katan's
right,
leading the
the
group now, right?
owlies or whatever they're called.
And I think once everything goes to shit and then, you know, Sidious takes over, obviously like the Mandalorians get told like, okay, like we rule you now, we rule everything, and they probably say no, and then that's when that purge happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming.
I just like you say a purge, like they like how, like is it like we're talking like a genocide,
Well,
like
I think that's the Great Purge because they talk about that in The
right?
Mandalorian. They talk about the Great Purge, and then that's why all the Beskar has like
There's
Empire
stamped
symbols
on
on
it,
it and
right?
all that. Because I think
All
the
the
Empire
dead,
just swoops in
yeah, all
and
the dead Mandalorians, and they take all their armor and melt it down or something. I don't, yeah,
yeah, because
I
I
don't know.
think they just get told like either you're the same old, you're
Yeah,
either with us or you're against us, and they just you know
yeah, they get wrecked.
get wrecked. Yeah,
I find it really interesting because like that's just it's just a specific way of saying it, and it obviously is trying to speak to the Mandalorian and
yeah.
this that's such a massive shift in the in thinking for like a culture that like I want to see this like what actually happens to Mandalore, less of it just being talked
Oh,
about,
me
like
too.
this, the purge and all these like give me like what does that mean? Like how many Mandalorians are we talking about? Like
Yeah, that's why we don't really know what the purge is and
right?
what has happened, but
I
yeah, well, I hope
very
we get to see it
fascinated.
though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then so Maul promises them that if they die, they will die on the field of battle, which they probably will die. So he'll probably keep that
Yeah, the
promise.
Mandos are very like Viking-esque in that
Mm-hmm.
way. Is
Mm-hmm.
that they
Well,
die
these
with
ones.
honor and that's like their greatest accomplishment.
Well, these are still the remnants of the uh, what the heck
Death
is
Watch.
the Death Watch, right? And that's
Yeah.
they're very militaristic and militant, right?
Yeah.
And but like the rest of the Mandalore is kind of pacifists, right? That's our understanding at that time. So no wonder they get massacred so easily. Um, so then we cut to troopers rounding people up, and this kind of speaks again to clone troopers rounding people up. Speaks to that idea I was talking about before. This idea of like the imagery of stormtrooperness, right, with the
Mm-hmm.
clones, and the like move along, and like all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It just feels like it's very eerie. And obviously Bo-Katan mentions it. She's like, the people won't stand for this. I won't stand for this. This can't
Yeah.
last, right?
Well, you're right. It feels very like stormtrooper. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, it doesn't feel. It's not that it doesn't feel because we know they're clone, like there are clone troopers, but
Right.
it feels a little more. Yeah, you can just kind of see. I don't think they do that on purpose,
Well, they
but
do because it's like dimly lit and like it looks
yeah,
very like
it's almost like showing you what's to come,
yeah.
right? Like,
Yep. Absolutely. It's a very effective. I don't like it, but it's very effective. um, so the then so Bo is again. She's saying how once this is all over, you guys have to go, and Ahsoka's like, "Yep, once we have Maul, the Republic forces will leave, and you'll have your chance to rule." Or to lead, I think she says, and then they open the door, and Maul says, "I agree." What the fuck is he talking about?
um, because I don't think Maul gives a shit about Mandalore. Like he's just like,
Right.
yeah, like you can have it, Bo-Katan, because Maul's gonna he doesn't care. Like
Okay.
that's not what he's there for.
All right, fair enough. I wasn't sure. I was like, I agree that you will have your chance to lead, or I agree
Yeah,
that
I
I'm going to
think
be
he just means
captured. Like, what is he talking? Like,
I don't know.
it's a weird
I
line
think
to
I
me.
think it's about like that the Republic's gonna leave and that she'll get her chance. And I think he's
Right.
agreeing. He's like, oh yeah, like that's gonna happen because
The public,
shit's gonna go
yeah,
down and
because there won't be a
Mandalore's not
republic.
gonna be worried about for a bit.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
yeah,
Um, so Maul's sitting on the chair like a crazy person. Like he's like squatting in the chair. It's really
lounging.
weird.
Oh yeah, oh no, he's squatting in it, right?
Yeah.
I was like, because he usually sits in it like all laid back and
Yeah.
like yeah,
Which I thought it was cool, but it just like it's like, oh wow, that he's being ultra weird. And Jesse's with him,
yeah.
and he gives Jesse back as a show of good faith, and we kind of talked about
Hmm.
that already. And then Jesse apologizes that he told them everything. Right? He's like, oh man, he feels bad. I'm kind of interested. I would love to have like seen the scene right after with Jesse and Rex, like being like, what happened, like a debrief,
Yeah,
and
like
just
what
to
does
see
he
like,
know?
yeah, like how messed up was he by Maul there? Like, is he give him an inkling? Is that how Rex gets an inkling of Order 66? Like more so than what we already went through like the last season. And he kind of has an
Yeah.
idea, but I'm
I'm
wondering
still
if
so
that's going to play
curious
into
about
it.
that, but we'll see. Obviously, we'll get to see in the next two episodes what happens
I think it's very
with
important to
that. But
note, and this is something
yeah.
I saw in Ryan Airy's Screen Crush kind of like recap on YouTube, which is very handy.
Hmm.
But essentially, we see multiple shots of Rex's bald head in this episode. He does not have the scar on the side of his head, and in
Yeah.
Rebels, they make a clear reference to the fact
To the
that
scar.
this he points at it and he says, me and the boys took our chips out." Right?
Right.
And there's a scar there. So no scar means he still has the chip, which means you know,
Yeah.
Commander Cody. The time has come.
Oof.
Execute Order 66.
Yeah, I'm just like, we'll see. Because maybe, like, I'm thinking, you know, it maybe it does happen for Rex.
Right, and then
Order
he feels even
66, he gets it.
yeah. I
But
almost kind of want that to happen. Like I feel like that's a more interesting story,
but I'm
right?
curious, maybe it's because Ahsoka's not a Jedi anymore. Like
There's a
that
lot of
maybe it causes like that split second of like, oh wait, and then maybe he's just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like
right.
it's, and then maybe he realizes like we got to get whatever this shit is in here out. Like, but we'll see. Or he's
Yeah.
unconscious, or when it
Yeah.
happens.
Oh, that would crap. The unconscious. I didn't even consider that. If he's knocked out when that happens, I swear to God, that'll be like the
Are
worst.
you
That's
gonna be
just the.
mad?
It's just not interesting.
Yeah, I know.
I
I
don't
know
think.
it is not interesting if he's just unconscious, but yeah.
You're like, oh, I missed the order, therefore it doesn't apply to me. Like, it does every clone who wakes up who is like sleeping at that time, like not like you know what I mean? Like, I don't get that. Like,
Yeah.
so I just I think I have more faith in the show that they wouldn't kind of take that. It's a cheat. That's a cheat when someone's knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't think they're going to take that. We've seen Order 66 now multiple times. We're going to see it from a new perspective. Show us
Hmm.
what it feels like, or show us what it's like with a clone we know. That's
Right.
And if you don't do that, then what the fuck are we even doing here? You know?
Yeah. Like, oh, you're already mad.
Yeah, nothing's even happened yet.
I
Um,
know. We'll see
so
the next couple
yeah, literally within the week,
yeah.
we'll know. So a battle breaks out outside. I kind of like this. It's like Paul's like, someone should probably go take care of that.
Yeah, he's just standing there
Yeah.
watching it. Yeah.
He's like, you should go protect your people. He knows that's how it's going to go, and he's going to be with just Ahsoka, right?
Yeah.
And then this is round 2, basically,
Hmm.
of the Ahsoka versus Maul 3-round fight. Now, I think what's really interesting. One of the most interesting parts of this whole episode is the fact that, and the first time I watched this, I did not know it, but I suspected it as to be the case because this fight starts with there's a long discussion, and we'll go over that in just a second. But I want to call this out because I think this is very important. So it starts with he pulls the same move that he pulls in episode 1, like with he sticks the two-sided lightsaber out front, and then he does this like arm pull back with his other arm, and that's how it starts the fight. And then they do a very good job of showing us their full bodies as they move around and do this fight, because it feels very different. This this lightsaber fight has a very different feel to it than any other lightsaber fight does in the Clone Wars, and there's a very distinct reason for
Yeah.
that. Is because Ray Park, which is the actor who played Maul
I
in Episode
know.
One, came
Yeah.
in and did mocap for this
Yeah.
fight, and there was a person who was mocapping for Ahsoka as well. I don't remember her name.
Oh, it's the same person who um is the shit. She's the armorist in The Mandalorian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
And I just though, if you look at, if you watch this, which I have multiple times, I've seen this episode a couple times now. That this fight just feels so cool because the way that Ray Park moves is very distinct, and we've seen there've been lots of lightsaber duels with Maul since Episode 1 and through the Clone Wars. They've not really felt the same, and a lot of the lightsaber duels in Clone Wars have a different feel to them. They're really fast, and there's a lot happening, right? And they're really cool, but they don't necessarily feel like the movie ones do.
Right.
This one feels like a movie one, and the way that Ray Park does this like little like double hop off of one leg into like a jump like thrust move is like so fucking cool. I could watch that lightsaber duel over and over and over again and never get bored.
It's my favorite one that they've ever done in an animated series. Like, I think it's better than the one with Ahsoka and Vader in Rebels. Even like,
oh yeah,
because
that one's not that great.
Good. It's good. It's good in a different way. This one is like visually just better. The other one hits me in my heart more, but.
Yeah, I mean that like
obviously,
there's a couple reasons why I don't necessarily like the one in Rebels as much. The lightsabers look funny. They look weird in Rebels. They're very thin.
Yeah.
Which is whatever. They made a distinct visual choice for that show, and it's fine. Vader looks kind of weird, and so does Ahsoka. And actually Ahsoka looks fine, but the lightsabers look weird.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vader looks kind of weird, and Anakin's whatever they did with Anakin's model in Rebels is really fucked up. It's like really dumb looking, but we only see it in like one little like hologram flashback. It's not a big deal, but this. It has the mocap, which is really important. It gives it an air of authenticity that the rest of the fights just don't have.
It just feels more real. Like,
yeah, and it looks so good.
It was so good. It was beautiful. Like it just looked
glass
beautiful.
falling around. There's
that
like mist.
Glass breaking, that whole window smashing, and it was incredible.
So,
and I don't know if that's like they're playing against how the glass breaks and like the Mace Windu.
Yeah, so
like,
that's
Palpatine fight.
Great question. So because I was reading a couple people online. They were saying that they watched, they put on Revenge of the Sith, like the Siege of Mandalore, like from the moment the Siege of Mandalore starts, because that's the first moment that we know of that's taking place concurrently with the events of Revenge of the Sith. So they put on Siege of Mandalore from last week through to the end of the episode with the attack on Coruscant from Revenge of the Sith concurrently, like starting at the same time. And Palpatine appears on screen at the exact same time, and I don't think this is a coincidence. At the exact same time that Maul walks out of the darkness, so in Revenge of the Sith, when we see Palpatine for the first time, he rotates in his chair. It's very Emperor-esque.
Yeah.
Right? He does that at the exact same time that we see Maul walk out of the darkness and says, "Why are you here?" Right? So I don't think that's a coincidence. Now I'm wondering.
No, I think there's a lot of things that aren't coincidences because there's like the right before Maul and Ahsoka like start fighting. There's like that Force scream too.
The what?
That like screech that that Palpatine makes.
Oh, yeah.
Maul like that same sound happens.
Right.
When Maul like first goes to strike Ahsoka.
Interesting.
And it's like people are wondering because you don't see his mouth when it happens. So people are like, oh, like, is that trying to say that like this fight is happening at the same time as like that the Emperor is like
honestly
killing...
it might be.
Or is it just like, or is Maul making that noise? Like, I don't know. But I've heard a lot of people saying like, oh, it's the same screech that
I don't know.
Palpatine makes.
All I'm saying is if you can watch these concurrently and the glass breaks at the exact same time in both things.
I don't think the glass would break in the same, but
I'm just saying if that's the case, that'd be pretty fucking cool.
It would be.
That's all I'm saying. And maybe you line it up so the glass does break, and that kind of gives you that because those things are supposed to happen the exact same time, that we're supposed to kind of understand like that's where we can line things up. I don't know. I'll let other people who are more obsessed with this, kind of figure that out, and I'll just like reap the benefits later. But
Yeah.
there's
Well,
definite parallels going on.
yeah, those two things can't happen. Like it can't be both. Like it can't have
Well,
that.
because
The force
how far
screech and the
into?
window can't, like because when Maul and Ahsoka are fighting, the window breaks first, and then the
Mhm.
force screech happens second. But in the movies,
It's the same
Palpatine
time.
like does that screechy thing and then kills the Jedi, and then later he fights Mace and the window breaks. So they be flipped. Like you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah.
So not everything can line up, but I'm sure like it'd be cool if it like one or two of these things lined up with these
Well, I think
battles.
it's more than one or two at this
Yeah.
point. It's going to be more than one or two. So
Yeah,
let's
it'd
talk
be cool.
about the conversation they have before the actual fight.
Yes.
By the way, I loved the moment where she pulls the lightsaber back, like, and he like does like a side jump spin thing to dodge
Yeah.
it. I think that's so
Yeah.
cool. But that's like that stuck out to me.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of lines here. I mentioned this
Oh, I
earlier.
wrote
So
down my favorite one.
oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can figure it out. Okay. So
Okay.
Maul's saying, look at them so blissfully unaware. We talked about this. He's like looking out the window, watching this big battle going on. And we mentioned how we felt like that kind of calls to this idea of him and us having a different understanding of what's happening than the rest of the characters in the show.
Right.
He basically says, no, I want to speak with you, because now we know he's spoken with Jesse. He has a different understanding. He now has a different plan, and it involves Ahsoka, right?
Right.
He says that they were that she was motivated to leave by the hypocrisy of the Jedi Council. That's a really great line.
Mhm.
That they were both tools for a greater power. And then so Ahsoka, being Ahsoka, has she's learned things from Anakin, she's learned things from Kenobi, but the line of "I'm here to bring you to justice" is very cheesy. It feels very Kenobi-esque.
It is
Right?
very Kenobi. Yeah.
And then there's another great line here. Maul says, he basically laughs and says, "Justice is just the construct of the current power base."
Yeah. That was my favorite. That's what I
your
wrote
favorite
down.
one.
Yeah, and then he goes like a base to which, according to my calculations, is about to change.
Yes. Oh, which is so cool. I just, again, this
It's so
idea, like,
good.
he's just playing 3D chess right now,
Mhm.
and Ahsoka's kind of playing checkers, and it's a little frustrating because it's like, it's hard. It's hard. And I think they do a really good job here, because he says the Jedi, the time of the Jedi is over. And I really, by the way, I love this moment where he's like, she's like, with your help, we can stop him. He's like, stop him from doing what? From preventing the Republic from falling? It's already fallen. You just can't see it yet. That's probably my favorite line. And the way he says the delivery is so good. And basically he's like, join me, and we'll rule the galaxy as father and son. No, he says, join me.
I was gonna say there's that parallel between like Vader and Luke.
Yeah, it's
but
Vader, Luke, Rey, and
it's Rey Kylo.
Rey
Yeah.
Kylo. This is
Yeah.
they like to do this a lot in
Yeah.
Star Wars.
It's the join me and we'll fight the worst of two evils.
Right.
I guess.
Exactly. And it often comes from the perspective of the person on the dark side.
Yeah.
But I think he's actually right in this case, right? Which is one of the rare times. That's not always the case, and sometimes it is. But in this case, he's right.
Yeah.
These two, if they, knowing what they know, could do something about it. But and again,
You
the way
think they could though?
I think they could.
I don't know. Like maybe actually. Well, Maul's pretty strong, and so is Ahsoka. But I'm like Palpatine's like fucking strong.
Right, but you also have to know that Maul and between their existing relationships and the knowledge of the people in play, are able to influence those people in ways that
true.
could
Yeah.
affect the outcome. Right?
That's true.
They're not going to go in and just like beat up Palpatine and be like, stop it. Like that's
No.
not what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like together they could have orchestrated something that prevent. And he says it like he's like, I'm not trying to prevent anything from happening. It can't be undone. It's already happened. You just can't see it. What I want to do is prevent Sidious from gaining his new apprentice, right? And taking something away from him, something that he spent a lot of time planning, right? And this is, by the way, the name Phantom Apprentice is so fucking cool. The title of the episode, we haven't talked about it yet,
Right.
is so cool because it's clearly a reference it could be referenced to multiple things, but I think in this case it's specifically referencing that Anakin is a
Definitely.
phantom apprentice to Sidious, right?
Too Sidious for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you could also you could also say the same thing about, like, it applies to so many. It also, you could say the same thing to it applies to Maul, who was the apprentice but is now kind of a ghost in the
But is
kind
a
of the
ghost,
machine,
yeah.
you
They
know?
do what do they call him in Rebels? They call him a shadow. Because
Yes.
like the Inquisitors are looking for him. They're like, "Who are you after?" They're like, "A shadow." So it's like they're always yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
Maul's always kind of like spooky when it
Yeah. So, and like,
Yeah.
well, he is red with horns. I mean, fair, but
Yeah.
like this, and then it could also apply to Ahsoka, right? Like the former apprentice. Like these, I just,
True. Yeah. Yeah, there's
it's a
so many
very good
layers to it.
title. It's the best one of the
Yeah.
season so far. It's not even close.
It says a lot coming from you.
Well, I mean, they've been pretty bad. It's a low
Yeah.
bar. So he extends his arm and says, "Join me, and we can defeat Sidious together." And Ahsoka, give her credit. She's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'll help you. You have to just answer me one question, right? Answer this one
Mhm.
question. If everything seems right, we'll leave together and we'll go take care of this business, right?"
Right.
But before she gets there, by the way, there's the line: "Every choice you've made has led you to this moment." Is such a cool, like, star. It's it's a lot of words that don't necessarily mean anything a lot of the time. Because I feel like it's a kind of a tropey kind of thing we've heard before. But in the
Right.
context of Star Wars, it does kind of, because there's a bit of a destiny thing, and determinism kind of thing to it all, that um, it has so much more meaning in this case, right? We've seen all the decisions Ahsoka's made, essentially, and how it's
Oh,
led her
yeah.
to here. And it speaks to what Anakin was saying last week. It's like, see, she wouldn't have been here if she had stayed with the
I
council.
was just gonna
You know
say
what I
that,
mean?
yeah. Yeah, it kinda ties it
Yeah.
all together, but
Um, he extends his arm. The window blows open. We go kind of cut back to the battle, and then we cut back and then it says, "Look, I'll help you. One question: what do you want with Anakin Skywalker?" And then this is like this rare moment of, like, I feel like Maul feels like, okay, whew, her guard's down. She's agreed to my thing. I didn't necessarily know she was going to agree, but she agreed. Sweet.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll just tell you. I'll tell you what's up, because he doesn't know the relationship that she has with Anakin, right?
Right. Yeah, he wouldn't
And
get that out of Jesse's brain, so
exactly. So he's basically like, yeah. So he's been groomed to be his apprentice for a long time, and I've tried to
right.
lure him here to kill him.
Yeah.
And
And
she's like,
she's just like, "Fuck, no."
I guess, like, it's obviously a knee jerk reaction to be like, no, that's not true, right? But and she obviously doesn't necessarily believe it even until, like, years later,
No, of course
right?
not. She doesn't even believe it when senses Vader and senses Anakin in him. She's like,
Right.
"No," like, she can't even believe that then, so yeah, and that would be hard when you of course she wouldn't, like, from everything she's seen and knows of Anakin, especially that we see in the Clone Wars, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, why would she think that's true? She's like, "No," she's like, "I know Anakin Skywalker." Like,
Right. But
that's
obviously
like,
she
she would
doesn't.
never. Yeah, well, no
But,
one
like, I guess,
yeah.
to me, there's like this kind of this part that has always bugged me about the Vader turn. It's just that how quickly it happens, right? It
Mhm.
always feels very hollow to me.
It's
And
true,
and
especially when you get more depth of Anakin through the
yeah,
Clone Wars
it's
series,
like at the
yeah.
drop of a hat. Like, in one second he's merry old Anakin, the next he's murdering younglings.
Mhm.
And, like, so I
Yeah.
guess to me it's like, in reality, like, if that actually took place over a longer period of time and he was being groomed, we saw that. But, like, there would be more hints to, maybe he is capable of turning away from the Jedi Order and to the dark side. Like, that there could be hints there that if someone said, "Hey, this is what's happening," if someone spelled it out for you, you could maybe put the dots together yourself. Maybe not that moment, right?
Right.
But you could probably
Yeah.
put the pieces together. You just get the impression that no one around Anakin in his bubble is able to put pieces together like that. It's just like it's a puzzle. They have all the pieces, but they don't know what it
True.
looks like.
But I think it's also because he's hiding a lot, right? So he's hiding his relationship with Padme. He's hiding those like the visions that he's having about it. He's hiding like the fact that he's trying to change what's supposed to come, right? And he is hiding all that and holding all that in. So I do think that's part of the reason why, but But at the same time, you're right, though, it would be nicer to see a few more drops of that throughout the Clone Wars other than just seeing him, like, kill sand people in
Yeah,
episode
it's
2.
always sand people.
Yeah.
I guess like it's just always frustrated me, and like there's opportunities here to, and obviously like nothing's gonna be undone. What has happened has happened. Nothing can change that, but we can see, we could learn new things, or we have an understanding that people knew what was going to happen, or tried to stop it but couldn't, but ultimately a lot
Right.
of it is no one knew what was going to happen and it happened anyway. But
Yeah.
what's interesting here is that Maul did know, right? And he tells Ahsoka what's going to happen, and she refuses to believe it. So that is
Right.
obviously frustrating, because as the audience we understand, right, and we just want her to understand, but she can't.
But she can't, yeah. And I think even if I think it would be a big mistake to have her believe that right
Mm-hmm.
off
Oh yeah,
the bat
absolutely.
too. Like it'd be like, okay, like Maul, like to her, he's nuts. Like all he's doing is talking about this like Sith Lord that she's never heard about before, and then like talking about how the Republic's gonna fall. Into her, it seems like everything's
Right.
fine and everything's going great for the
Do
Republic and
you
the clones.
do you think if I guess if she knew that Palpatine was Sidious, do you think she could put those pieces together and be like, "Oh
Yes.
shit!" Like if
Yes.
that's the one piece that's
Easily.
missing? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that's easily
Then
because then she'd be like, "Oh, he's Anakin's friend and he's so close to Anakin," then it would make more
right.
sense to
So
her.
yeah.
But
Okay. I would agree then. I guess if everyone knew that, no one really knows that they're the same person.
right.
So if people knew that, I feel like that would kind of be the linchpin that would like unlock everything for them.
Yes, that would make
Yeah.
everything click into place and make
Yeah.
sense. But
And then I guess he said like, she lights her lightsaber up, like, "You're lying,"
yeah.
and he says that the Padawan has one last lesson, which I think is super fucking cool.
Yeah.
uh, and then there's a line in the fight where she says, he says Kenobi's arrogance, and she's like, "You'll find that I have many qualities for you to dislike," which is a
Yeah.
reference to Luke and Vader, in Empire Strikes Back. So,
Yeah. I love it.
and then he's kicked through a window.
How did you feel about his little lightsaber marks on either side of the window?
I thought it was kind of dumb.
I had a lot of people be like, "Oh, that was so cool." Then they just like thought it was funny. Like be like, "Okay, that's kind of like
It's like someone running through to. I also like Maul is so cool, but at the same time, he's kind of like he's this like little snake, because like you catch him like slithering up the wall, like, and he looks kind of like a little kid like trying to climb a tree. And you
it's
kind of lose a little bit of respect for him a little bit.
yeah.
Um,
I never lose respect for Maul.
So we got a question here from Keen Observer in the chat room on YouTube. So
Okay.
he was saying, "I was really hoping we'd get a little bit more of the abduction of Kix. I was also hoping to see Order 66 from Kanan's point of view."
Okay.
I guess like I think first of all, I think that Order 66 from Kanan's point of view happens in a comic book. I'm pretty sure you can actually see, pretty sure that's a thing. So if you want to see that, search out one of the Marvel comics from the last couple years. There's one in that explores him into Paul,
Right.
and what happens with the clones. So definitely check that out. And then I guess I don't really remember exactly what happens with the abduction of Kix. I don't recall exactly, but
Yeah, me neither.
I wonder
But
if I think it has something to do with Order 66 as well. But I'm Mr. Observer or Mr. Keen. I don't know if you prefer. I guess you sound like you're interested a lot in what happens with Order 66. So are we. That's next episode. I think that's going to basically be the entire
yeah.
crux of next episode. And he's saying, he's read that comic and that he'd want to see more in this particular animation. I agree. I wish they remade all of Rebels in this animation, because ultimately Rebels is great, but it does not look nearly as good as the show does. Like, not even close. And I know they were kind of like on a little bit of a stilted budget, and okay, just go watch. And I said this, I think, recently. Go watch the episodes that take place on Mandalore in Rebels, and you'll be blown away by how little is actually drawn on screen in those episodes. It is just like them on a white background. It's like just a piece of paper, and they just drew the characters on it. So I just agreed. Any more of this? I guess another question then would be, do you think we're going to get more Clone Wars? I know Clone Wars has been very popular on Disney Plus. It's getting really good ratings. Do you think they'll go back and finish any of those other unfinished arcs, like the stuff that happens on
Uh,
Kashyyyk or any of that stuff, or is this kind of like put it to
I
bed,
don't
it's
think
over?
so. I think they're done after this because I mean, if they were going to keep going, they wouldn't have the final season.
Yeah, I guess they do call it the final season, but they also
Yeah, I mean, maybe like they might take a break from it, and then
yeah.
maybe we'll see years later they might come back to it and be like, "Oh, okay, like we can pick this up again." But at least for the next little while, I don't think we're going to see anything more after this, like Clone Wars related, at least.
Oh, right. Okay, so I agree with you, by the way, and I think that's really one of the funniest thing that's ever happened is that Clone Wars keeps getting canceled and then brought back, and then there's always like every year at Star Wars, like the conventions or whatever, there's always like a the last Clone Wars panel, and like there's always a new reveal of more Clone Wars. Like when we thought it's over, it keeps happening over and over again, which I
Right.
think is really funny. So there's like opportunity for that to happen again, which I think is hilarious to me. Because you could end it here and then have like another lost missions kind of thing, like they did with the Netflix show
Oh,
series,
right. Yeah.
right? You could be like,
Yeah,
oh, these
yeah.
are
You could
lost
easily do
missions.
that.
We'll just do that again. So Keen's saying that Kix, which was who's the medic, by the way, I forgot. I'm remembering now. Was the medic who
Right.
discovers that Fives had told him in the bathroom because Fives tells him all the stuff about Order 66 in the bathroom.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
and then he was on his way to go warn the Republic, and then he gets abducted by separatists, and then that ship is shot down, and then his he's in suspended animation. So I just actually watched a YouTube video about this. Thank you for reminding me about the last clone, and Kix actually turns out to be the last clone because he gets shot down. That separatist ship gets shot down, and he's in suspended animation. Some pirate crew looking for Dooku's lost treasure years after. I think I'm not sure when exactly it takes place. Sometime after the Empire's fallen. Um, he basically gets discovered by this pirate crew. They reanimate him. He's told about all the stuff that's happened, and basically he's too late to stop it. He's like, it's all over. The war's over. There's no more clones. He's the last one left, and all the information he had is now worthless because it's in the
Right.
past.
Okay.
And then he
Cool.
eventually joins this pirate crew, and that's the last we see of him. So,
Interesting.
and I think that's in a novel or a comic book somewhere. But I watched a YouTube video about it. If you probably made the YouTube video, Keen. So, I would check that out.
No, that's sweet. Yeah.
Ba, 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 ba. I was thinking of showing a little bit of the Kix abduction, even a brief 2-minute animation. I agree. I think just having the idea that there was another clone out there who was trying to prevent this from happening and was actually had the knowledge and was on the way to do it and then gets abducted, I think would be cool as like
Be cool.
like a little side story or like a short. I think that'd be fun. So
Yeah.
all right, so we're back. Let's finish this episode.
Yes.
So Ahsoka,
Yeah.
We cut back to the fight that's happening in the streets. Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians come. They kind of like turn the tide. Saxon like calls for backup from Maul, and he's like, "No, I don't think I will. I'm out of here."
He tells him to die well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, die well.
Yeah,
Darth Saxon. Just like a big like, nah, fuck you.
yeah. It's so
Die
casual.
well.
It's like, no, I don't think I will be doing
Yeah.
that.
Die well.
Yeah, I saw. So Ahsoka chases him up into the rafters, and I didn't really consider that there would be like rafters for this like bubbled
Yeah.
city, but it's pretty cool. And because like the venue is just like a cool spot. I don't know how they get up there. It's not shown, but doesn't matter.
I don't know. Did I?
Yeah,
Jumping?
they just jump really high. We know that they.
Oh
can
yeah,
do that.
because Maul's ship is coming to get him, so
Yeah.
he's trying to get up as high as possible to
To get out.
get on his
Yeah.
ship. Yeah.
So she chases him, and then she says like, Obi-Wan was right. You are hard to kill. And then there's like
Yeah. I liked that.
which I liked as well. And then there's another kind of mini duel. I don't know if this part is choreographed by Ray Park and
I'm not
company.
too
I
sure.
don't
I
think
would
so.
assume maybe all of it is, but
It's hard
yeah.
to say because like they're jumping from post to post. It kind of feels like less
that's true.
easy to do, but maybe it is. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I guess there's this one moment where Maul like jumps from one post to another, and he like hops on one foot because he's like about to lose his balance. That feels very like real and less animation-y. So
Yeah.
it kind of makes me think it probably was.
Yeah.
And okay, so then there's this whole fight sequence. His ship arrives. Um, there's a line from Maul where said, "We could have destroyed Sidious." And then she says, "Only for you to take his place." And we kind of talked about this already, but this idea that she
Right.
thinks that he's trying to make a power play.
Yeah.
We both agree that I don't think that's the case. But
No, like I said, I think
yeah.
it's just self-preservation. I don't think it has anything to do with him wanting to rule the galaxy. But,
Yeah.
like Maul, like, okay, he's obviously not a good guy,
No.
but and he's not really a bad guy
He's
either. Like
more bad guy
he
than good
is.
guy,
He's a
though.
bad guy. Yeah. Oh, he is. He's definitely like more not gray. He's a little bit more on the dark side. He just,
It's like
he's way more dark
it's a
side.
dark gray. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why him and like Ahsoka are such a parallel,
Because she's a
right?
light
Because like,
gray.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's just like, yeah, I think like I said, it's self-serving and self-preservation more than it is like I want to run the galaxy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's
He
always
just
been
has some
selfish, right?
huge vendettas. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's got some massive vendettas and some massive
Yeah,
like points to
he's not
prove.
very good at letting things go.
Oh no.
No.
He's got some mad rage and
But I
revenge
think that's
built
kind of
up
always
and
been a
like
part of the dark side, right? About like harboring
yes,
that anger and
the
fear
hate.
and
Yeah.
hate. Yeah.
Yeah, the hate and the
Yeah.
anger and yeah.
So
But
the other thing that stands out to me here is that there is the music here has a choir in it, very reminiscent of
Duel of the Fates.
Duel of the Fates. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you if it was the same
It's
because you're
not the
so good with
same.
that,
It's
and
not the
I didn't
same.
think it was, and I
It's
was like,
just a
oh,
clear reference to it.
oh, it's so good.
Mhm.
Every lightsaber battle in this was so good.
What do you make of Ahsoka losing both of her lightsabers, though?
Yeah, I don't know whether she's gonna pick them up again
Do
or
you think
like
you'll
whatever.
get
they just fell. She needs to go pick them up.
a Cody-esque scene where, where she gets
No,
to get
because
her lightsabers
I don't
handed to
think
her?
so. Because that would just be too ridiculous. But yeah, I saw some people were like, "Oh, that's where she loses them, and then
I don't think that's the case. I
she
think,
makes new ones." It's like no, because she does shit with them again later.
hmm
So
yeah, I think we know that
yeah,
she uses them again. It's fine. She can
yeah,
just force find them. They don't like break from falling. It's fine.
no, she'll find them. Yeah,
So she loses her lightsabers. We have this quick moment of Rex with Gar Saxon in custody, and then there's one of those rare moments where people actually look up, and he's like, "Oh, he's like, oh shit!"
yeah,
He's like, "Get the gunships." So
yeah,
they head up there, and then meanwhile, like there's this like last little fight where I guess he's kind of toying with her a little bit because she doesn't have her lightsabers. He cuts the
the
steel
beam,
beam and or whatever it is, whatever it's called in Star Wars, and I think Durasteel. I think it might be what. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
no,
She's on this beam and then like toying with her. He jumps on there. It's like almost like trying to like shake her off. It's kind of weird. But then
yeah,
there's this kind of like last ditch move where she like grabs the lightsaber and like uses it to cut the beam so that he falls. Super, super cool.
yeah,
And she catches him in midair with the force. And his screaming here is so creepy, hey?
yeah,
He's like, "Let me die." He says, "Let me die. We're all going to burn." Isn't that
yeah,
we're all gonna burn. We're all gonna die. You don't know what you're doing.
yeah.
It's just so creepy. I absolutely love that.
But I feel like it's so raw and real. Like it's just like you can feel like the anguish in his voice at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not his normal like kind
Cool
of
and
like not
collected.
pandering.
Yeah.
It's not his normal kind of like tone. It's like it's that panic and it's that like no, 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 like this isn't how I want this to go and like
Yeah.
this isn't how this is supposed to end. But
Mm-hmm.
cuz yeah, he's just freaking out and like I thought that was so well done.
Yeah. It's honestly it's some of the best work,
Yeah.
like voice work in the show. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like it feels so believable for someone
Yeah.
suspended in air and he's
Yeah.
freaking out and then like just feel like can't do anything. You're completely helpless.
Yeah.
It's very I love that. And then the way that it cuts to black with like this like basically like impending doom kind of sound. I don't even know how to
Yeah.
describe it. It's just so perfect. So that's the episode. I think it's very, very, very good. Like I said, I liked last week's episode better. I don't know if it's necessarily a better episode. It's really hard to beat this lightsaber duel. Having it
So good.
actually like
Yeah.
mocapped is like a kind of like a next step in evolution for this show. It's so good.
Yeah.
Makes you almost wish that all the lightsaber duels were mo-capped, but budget, I get it. Ray Park doesn't come cheap, I'd imagine. So
No, probably not.
I don't know. It's a huge win so far. The last few episodes have been almost perfect. Very few complaints. And I guess Keen Observer has also mentioned that he would like to see more of Wolf and Gregor. I would also like to know more about Wolf and Gregor, and maybe we'll get to.
I just love because I love how fucking crazy. Which one's the really crazy one? Once we get to Rebels, is it Wolf or Gregor? I can't remember, but one of them's just loopy and like
Gregor's the crazy one.
Yeah, I think so too. But he's just like trigger happy and like
yeah, he's like absolutely off his rocker. Yeah,
I think we might still see. I don't know.
I don't know how much.
Because those three don't have their chips, so we'll see what happens.
And are they the only ones? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I always wondered that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So they all three of them said that they didn't participate in 66. So
is that what they say? Is that their exact phrasing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's what Rex alludes to. Is that none of them. None of them seem to have.
I'd have to look at the exact phrasing, but the way that they say it, so Gregor seems to have brain damage from the explosion while saving D Squad. Yeah, I think I think we get that impression from later. I mean, it just it's all tragic. This is really what it is. I don't know how much what I was saying before is I don't know how much outside of Ahsoka and Rex's story we're actually going to see of Order 66, only because we've seen some of that stuff already. We kind of saw that montage in Revenge of the Sith. Like, do we really need to see that stuff again? Like, I don't know if we need to see, these Jedi being shot in the back over and over again. Like, I just, it's pretty brutal. Like, and obviously, like, Aayla Secura's is the worst one because like she gets shot and like they just keep shooting her. Like, it's unbelievable.
A meme about that, and it was like, oh, like Cody's squadron. It was like no one could survive a fall like that. And then it was like Aayla Secura's, and they're just all repeatedly shooting her.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. It just seems like so. Yeah. Like there's.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Wolf mentions that the Jedi are back for revenge. So I felt like he may have actually participated in Order 66. It's possible. I don't remember their exact phrasing.
Yeah, because Kanan just is like they're fucking clones. Like he's already like on edge about it. But yeah. I think it's just because they're clones. But yeah, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Okay, so that's it. I guess we'll be back next week with I've been seeing a couple memes. It's like I'm ready to be heard again.
Yeah.
Basically, that's where we're at. It's really sad. So I look forward to kind of breaking that down and like I've
crying.
Been waiting for this like exploration of Order 66 from this perspective since they did those lost episodes and we got to see the stuff with Fives.
Yeah.
So this is like I'm super excited. We're only a couple days away. I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll be back next week. We broadcast live every Monday night. Well, for the next 2 Monday nights for sure.
Yes.
And then the episodes come out Tuesday. So that's kind of the cadence we've been on. I don't know if that's going to change. If it does, the best place to find out is Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. And head over to our website, towerbabblepodcast.com, for everything that we do. And again, subscribe, like, share, all that kind of fun stuff. There's so many different platforms. I don't know which, like where the bells are supposed to be and all that kind of stuff on the screen. But basically, help support the show if you can. If you at patreon.com/Tower Babblecast, and if not, just help by listening and being a fan. So we appreciate it. We'll be back next week with goddamn Order 66.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk to you guys then.
Bye.